Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who knows more about Japanese breakfast than he does about Japanese breakfast. By that I mean I don't know that much about the singer whose album Jubilee I am now reviewing, although I have had breakfast in Japan several times. It is quite an interesting thing because they just bring you like miso soup and pickles. And as an American who's used to sugar bomb breakfast, it's quite a fascinating experience. And so just the name of this artist already got me interested. Now, I don't know much about her. She just released a book, apparently, 2 weeks ago. I guess it's about her mom dying of cancer and the difficulty of that. So I haven't read that. I probably should, but I don't have the time. I read a little bit of her biography, enough to realize that she was born in Korea, but grew up in America. So even just having the name Japanese breakfast and being from Korea is quite evocative as well, based on the sort of historical rivalry between those two countries and the history of animosity. There is a certain power to that, right? A certain power to having you be culturally identified one way and then have your name carry the name of a country that is not that culture. I don't think any of that plays into this album, though. This album, I wouldn't say is a great album if you love eating breakfast in Japan or if you're interested in Korean culture or American culture. I think you'd like this album if you like the Beach Boys and if you like Wilco. Now, I'm sure there are some people who watch my channel who don't like those bands, but you try again, because they're really great. This album really made me feel like listening to their albums in the way it's produced, the way it's emotionally resonant, but also with a certain distance from it, at times kind of a sort of postmodern distance. Really, it's just the production and it's the sort of the grandiosity of the sound at times reminds me of the Beach Boys, kind of really extravagant production. That's extravagant but well done. And then at times it reminded me of Wilco, just this sort of like hard-hitting rock and roll with a sort of seriousness underneath it, and also a playfulness as well. Lyrically, it's about half and half, sort of story songs from someone else's perspective, and then songs of her own about loss, and mostly the difficulty of monogamy. I'm going to go over this when I talk about the lyrics, but I get the sense this is somebody who is in a relationship, and that relationship is in trouble with a capital T. Maybe not, because she's singing about it so honestly, but it seems as though a lot of this album is like, monogamy is really hard, I want to sleep with other people. Next track. But we'll get into that when we get there. Probably one of the most distinctive things about Japanese breakfast as an artist is her voice. I listened to it at first and I really liked it. And then I kept listening to the album and it started to really annoy me. And then as I kept listening, it turns out that I ended up liking it again. So there's a sort of an intentional, I think, a willful annoyingness to it, a kind of piercing quality to it, which I think is very endearing, but can also be a little bit of a put off. And we can hear that in my homework. So for every album, I give homework where I make you listen to a song. If you've never heard the band, I'll put a link to the song Paprika right up there. Actually, this is a better Paprika. My wife is a very good cook, and she loves paprika. I'll put a link to Paprika up there. Apparently, it is not named after the spice. It's named after a movie, which I haven't seen either. And according to her own comments that I read on Lyric Genius, this song is a thesis statement for the record. So that's why I'm choosing this as a sample song. Also, please subscribe and smash the like bucket. It does matter to me if my videos do well. So the way she describes this is that she maxed out the Pro Tools session. So she was recording this all on the computer, but she put in so many things that she overloaded the computer. I didn't even know that was possible. But this whole song is about reveling in the beauty and the power of music. And there's just these great synthesizer tones, and her voice comes in that kind of piercing, sort of whiny and beautiful way. These great drum rolls turn into basically a marching band song in the back, and then a nice sort of Beach Boys style break before the refrain, some horns and some strings, and then she just sings these words about what is it like to be a successful musician. It's just, ooh, it's a rush. But the way she delivers those lines, that's where you will be able to see what I'm saying about her voice. Ooh, it's a rush. She just sings these words with such strength. And then another instrumental break before an interlude with strings and horns and drums. And again, it's when we think about what makes an album, because there's so much good music now that's influenced by the Beach Boys, and when it's done poorly, it just sounds like too much. It just sounds like somebody knows that there's a joke, but they don't know why it's funny, right? This is a good example of a musician who's making music, who understands what is it about that fullness, how to play with the dynamics within a song to make it work, and still have it have a good melody, and still have it be catchy, and still have it be poppy, where you can just listen to it, So that's what it is here. Also kind of a weird sort of dark tone as well to the lyrics. She's talking about how it's a rush, but then she also says how when she's alone, it feels like she's dying. There is a real darkness to this album, but at the same time, it's very uplifting and bright, and we feel very good. There is a real darkness. The next song is called Be Sweet, which is kind of like a hybrid throwback to the 70s and 80s, kind of like 80s kind of guitar work and like half-hearted funk guitar and nice clear bass notes. And then the chorus becomes like a full Madonna-style chorus. That's what I realized. Her voice reminds me the most of early Madonna. You know how early Madonna was like, sort of like just really high, in that high register, and sort of like really annoying, but then also really awesome, Like think like a song like Lucky Star, Just where she delivers it with such sincerity that the fact that her voice is so piercing is not as important. Interesting in this, she said that she wanted to incarnate a kind of sassy 80s woman of the night persona. So I think this is very much, the whole song lyrically is in that realm of like Bad Girls by Donna Summer. Again, the first sort of like, a song about, hey, men, be ready for me. I'm coming, but be sweet to me. Sort of this sort of theme about sexual frustration, which we'll get more into soon. Next song is called Kokomo, Indiana. Speaking of the Beach Boys, this is the best song with the word Kokomo in it. I guess this is intentionally, she says in an interview that this is intentional to have a Beach Boys feeling in the song, which I feel throughout the whole album. Really nice jazzy kind of singing though, like lots of chords changing, like lots of different chords, and then her voice is kind of constantly chasing those chords. Nice plucked strings by the violin, which then become bowed strings. Really nice play, just a lot of play with the horns and the string sounds. Really interesting lyrics here. I guess this is supposed to be from the perspective of a boy in the town of Kokomo, Indiana. I don't know, but here are some of the lyrics. These days, I can't shake that awful feeling. I'm missing something I can't place. Is that you, manifesting like the fear of an oven left on? God, I felt so much back then. I was as soft as a dune. A dune. D-U-N-E. I'm not a Scottish person asking you to sit down. When I taught French I taught English in France, and one of the main teachers had this really strong Scottish accent. So all the students would walk in and she'd say, "Do sit down." And I always thought it was funny that these little French kids had this Scottish accent. But here she is, soft as a dune. A very interesting, sort of mysterious lyric. She's very capable of writing that kind of lyric where everything kind of goes along nicely, and then there's some word or turn of phrase that makes you a little bit off kilter. The third verse pairs back a little bit with the instrumentation. I sort of wish that she did more of that, give a little bit more quiet time in the album. But then it ends with this nice guitar solo and then strings on the way out. Really quite good. Slide Tackle is another somewhat 80s song, sort of a New Order-ish guitar sound. A very sort of bizarre chorus about slide tackling my mind. I guess it's a soccer reference. But then the whole song, and this is going to be weird, the song is made by a bad saxophone solo. I mean, it's not a bad saxophone solo, but it's kind of a cheesy saxophone solo over this, drum machine and this 80s sound. But it's just beautiful. The way it sounds is just a very satisfying and good sound, and it is exactly right for this song. I have really turned around on saxophone solos in the last couple weeks. Then we have the best part of the album, and I think it's intentional. I think the way this album is constructed, another thing maybe I haven't mentioned yet, it feels like an album, like somebody put together a track list and is thinking about the way that you are going to be experiencing it. The turn on an album from side A to side B is one of the richest places to sort of put thematically linked songs, because it creates a link as you turn that album over. And I don't know if this is on purpose, but this little turn here from side A to side B feels like the center of the album spiritually and sonically as well. It starts off with the song Posing in Bondage, not that kind of bondage, and also that kind of bondage. She claims that it's about the bondage of controlled desire and the bondage of monogamy, but in a good way. So here we have this idea of posing in bondage as opposed to being like, someone in a, tied up in some kind of erotic BDSM situation. Instead, we have somebody who's pretending to be something they're not while in the bondage of a committed relationship. In a good way. Trouble with a capital T. Particularly because she mentions at some point, all the nights you turned away my touch. So it feels as though a lot of this is just her not feeling fulfilled in this relationship. I mean, sexually, yes, but I don't think that's the main point. But at the same time, she's so insistent that she doesn't feel that there's something bad happening here that I'm curious, If this were a song that were written before a breakup and then the breakup happened and then she said it, it feels like it's a song being written before a breakup and she's talking about it before a breakup, but then after the breakup, she'll be like, oh yeah, all this makes sense, And I speak, from some experience. I have been in relationships where a partner of mine has been very insistent about the difficulties of monogamy, and it doesn't end well. I'll just leave it at that. Nice kind of drum machine beat all the way through. These cool sound, I don't know, almost like James Horner, wah kind of sounds in the background. I just love the sounds on this song, though. Probably my favorite soundscape on the entire album. A very kind of 80s, again, gentle feel, but just really well done. Nice distorted voice at the end. Yeah, really, really great song. Very interesting, evocative, provocative with the title and the implication that she might be talking about sex, when really what she's talking about is this bondage of monogamy. Flip the album over, and we have the song Sit, which really echoes the previous one very well. It's much more discordant. It starts off with a kind of a blaring sound, almost like a tea kettle, and then these guitar chords that are resolving themselves, but going down, like going down a scale and resolving themselves with some distortion on there. The blaring boahs of the previous song become more distorted as opposed to just being like boah. They're more like boah. And again, according to her, quote, this song is also about controlled desire or our ability to lust for people and not act on it. Navigating monogamy and desire is difficult, but it's also a normal human condition. So it's a song about lusting after somebody who's not your partner, about being asked to sit on that person's face, about the taste of their tongue, and about this difficulty. And I sound, what's the word? Condescending and obnoxious while I'm talking about this. I don't mean to be. It's more that it fascinates me to have somebody writing about this in this stage of a relationship. And maybe I'm totally wrong. Obviously, I could be totally wrong. Some people navigate these kinds of things very well. Now that I am in and have been in for several years a relationship where I don't feel that monogamy is difficult and my partner doesn't either, I realize, it's not the monogamy that's difficult, it's the relationship. But that just came with experience. But still, these two songs together really paint a very honest picture of a very difficult stage in a relationship. The next track is called Savage Good Boy. This is probably my favorite track on the album, although I didn't use it as my example because she said that Paprika was the example song from the album, so I'm going to trust her on that. But this is a very interesting song. It starts off with very kind of weirdly distorted voices and kind of a Beach Boys sound as well here. Beach Boys and Wilco kind of mixed together. And she sings, I want to be a man. I want to be a savage good boy. And then this great low piano comes in. Dong! And like a drum machine becomes a regular drum set and just a great... So I taught a lot of people how to play drums. Most of the people I've taught how to play drums play better than I do. I consider that a success. And the first beat you teach, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, right? That's just the standard thing. And good indie songs know how to use that beat really effectively. And this song uses it really effectively with that piano and with all these sounds and the singing and just the tapestry, the audio tapestry she's able to Jesus Christ, guy, don't say weave. The audio tapestry she's able to weave. I don't have a script, I just have notes. That's not on my notes, but I said it. Please leave a thumbs down if you don't like me saying the audio tapestry she was able to weave. I'm gonna thumbs down my own video. The whole song is apparently about the idea of a billionaire who buys a luxury bunker and lives with somebody in that bunker. A great idea, right? Like about the excess of capitalism, about the control of women by money, and about her desire to be that person. She doesn't want to be the person who's controlled. She wants to be a man. She, quote, wants to make the money until there's no money to be made. And as the last one standing, we'll be tasked to repopulate. I almost drank the paprika. Have to end the video. So, a great idea here, a great story to tell, and it's nice because no one's really demonized in the story. It's just the excess of our society, the inequality of relationships in which wealth plays a major factor is all in here, as well as a sort of standard issue, still post 9/11, post-apocalyptic story about the world ending is quite good. The next song is called In Hell. This is two songs to me. The song I listened to the first time before I read what the lyrics were about, and the song that I will never, ever, ever listen to again now that I know what the lyrics are. So that first song is great. Reminds me a little bit of sort of like a Bruce Springsteen kind of vibe, like nice songwriting, good, good melody, everything. But the song is about putting her dog down. Seriously? You're gonna put a song on your album about putting your dog down when no one ever tells you how clinical death looks? And I can't unsee the 2 shots it took. I mean, there's some great, weird, minor piano note sounds throughout here. I really like the piano work on here, the synthesizer work. I don't remember which, because once I read what it's about, I couldn't listen to it again. You know why this video is coming out late? I was going to record it 3 hours ago. I had to drive my dog, Bo, who's fine. He's going to be fine. He lost about a third of his tail in a screen door accident. And the guy, the dog, the man, the hairy man, who I call Bo, my dog, has 2 separate collars, and he still got to his tail and opened up his wounds. So we had to have 2 inflatable collars and a cone, and that's the only way to stop him. But there was an infection, so I had to drive him out to his vet, and it reminded me of when I had to put my dad's dog down a little over a year ago, and it's just such a sad song, and I'm happy the song exists. Thank you, Japanese Breakfast. I believe her name is Michelle Zauman. I think that might be the last name. I know Michelle's the first one. I don't know the last name. I appreciate that there's a song written about this because this is a real moment in life. But much like I can't listen to Warren Zevon's Lost album because I don't want to hear about death, it's just too much. But it's a good song. Next track is called Tactics. A very cool kind of string quartet sound intro. Very kind of muted and restrained, and then it leads into these nice gentle drums and a synthesizer that sounds sort of like a bell setting. The voice is sort of at ease, and it builds well with the synthesizer sounds. This is the best integration on the album, I would say, of all these different sounds. It just mixes together so nicely. So again, when I say it sounds like the Beach Boys, it doesn't actually sound, she's not talking about any of the themes and her voice, and it's not the melodies. It's that attention to detail in the production that I'm talking about. Nice lyrics here too. Tried to recall memories of peaches and the sun on my neck. Just trying to remember happy times. I like that. Then the album ends with the song Posing for Cars, which I think is intentional. Of course it's intentional. The last song is called Posing in Bondage and then Posing for Cars. Trouble with a capital T again. This one just starts with guitar and voice, which is nice, like an acoustic guitar, but it builds and ends with like a Neil Young style, long guitar solo and instrumental bit. I am just a woman with loneliness with needs. Okay, so again, this sort of theme of unfulfilled sexuality, I guess. Some really nice lyrics here. They say time is the only certainty, but it's been 1 o'clock for hours. I don't know what that means, but I like it. And then this guitar solo is just beautiful. And what's funny is when I first listened to it, I thought, wow, you know, like some guitar solos can communicate the song to you. Maybe that's why I consider Neil Young to be the greatest guitarist, is that he's able to do that. Even if he's not able to play as well as other guitar players, he's able to communicate the song through the guitar solo. Imagine my delight, unlike that song about putting your dog down, my delight when I read the interview with her in which she described that this song is trying to do that. That she was inspired by Jeff Tweedy, you know, of Wilco, who was able to play guitar solos that tell the song through the instrument. And that that's what she was trying to do. So let me tell you this, Japanese Breakfast, you did it. Whatever it is, communicating through a guitar solo wordlessly, she did it. And she made a beautiful journey of a song where it starts off with just the voice and then you end with this whole thing and the guitar solo, and it's just great. So, there's my review. I really enjoyed this album. She's actually coming to my hometown. So few acts come to Rochester, New York. So I'm hopefully I'm going to be here when she plays, and I will report to you how the concert was. Mannequin Pussy, I believe, is opening up. I almost reviewed them last week, but I had a busy week last week, so maybe I'll review them as well. I'm just so happy that concerts are coming back and that anybody ever comes to Rochester, New York. The former Young Lion of the West that used to be a mandatory stop for all bands 30 years before I lived here. Okay, well, I am going to go pet Toby, who misses his brother, who is back in surgery, and there's the camera.